I am your host, Ian Highfield, and this podcast is dedicated to one very ambitious goal: transforming the world through transforming the workplace. In today's episode, I'm diving into a theory that sits at the heart of my work. It's a fusion of my sports psychology experience, a fusion of the academia I've been very fortunate to be exposed to through my studies at Harvard, and also through my experiences owning, managing, and running small businesses. It's a very simple but very powerful idea. Intrinsic motivation trumps everything. As business leaders, if we can help our employees foster intrinsic motivation, everything else will fall into place. So during this episode, I'm going to explain how intrinsic motivation drives engagement, creates flow states, results in grit and resilience, and why these elements are the building blocks for well-being, happiness, and ultimately higher performance. Along the way, I'm going to touch on the story of Simon Cohen and Henco Logistics, a case study that I have been fortunate enough to read and talk about, and I'll give you the information on why he was so close to mastering this, but maybe getting one simple step wrong. So, intrinsic motivation, the core of my theory as a sports psychologist, as a business consultant, and ultimately as a parent, a husband, and a human being. Intrinsic motivation is doing something because it's inherently interesting or meaningful. It's the most powerful driver of human behavior. In the field of sports psychology, it's the fuel behind athletes who train tirelessly for the love of the game and not just trophies. In academia, it's highlighted by one of my favorite papers, Self-Determination Theory by Deci and Ryan, and it shows that intrinsic motivation leads to deeper engagement, resilience, and satisfaction. And in my business experience, I've seen it firsthand. I've seen that intrinsically motivated employees are more creative, more engaged, more fulfilled, and more likely to push through challenges and show the grit and show the resilience it takes to drive a business forward than those who are solely driven by external rewards. So, how motivation leads to engagement and flow? Let's answer that. Intrinsic motivation naturally leads to engagement. When people are driven by curiosity, by purpose, or mastery, they immerse themselves fully in their work. This isn't the kind of engagement you get from dangling a bonus in front of someone or creating a team night out that's fueled by pizza and beer. It's a genuine, sustained focus and enthusiasm for doing something that brings you joy. If you are engaged, this is a precursor to achieving what we would call flow. This is the state where people are so absorbed in their work that time seems to disappear. I believe I'm one of the most fortunate people on my planet because I cannot remember the last time I looked at my watch and thought, when is work going to end? That literally never ever happens to me, and I feel very blessed to have worked my way into that position. How can we get employees to feel the same way? According to Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, flow is where we perform at our best and we feel deeply fulfilled. Intrinsic motivation is often the gateway to this state. Imagine an employee who's passionate about solving problems. They're not watching the clock, they're fully immersed, performing at a level that almost feels effortless to them. So if we have an intrinsically motivated employee, they're engaged, they can reach flow state, and now they can build resilience. Intrinsic motivation doesn't just make work enjoyable, it makes people tougher. Angela Duckworth's research shows that the grit, the ability to persevere towards long-term goals, is a critical factor in success. The fuel fired by intrinsic motivation creates and strengthens grit because people are more likely to push through challenges when they care deeply about what they are doing. When setbacks occur, intrinsically motivated individuals bounce back faster. Their purpose isn't tied to a fleeting reward. It isn't tied to money. It isn't tied to status or a result. It's tied to something deeper, something which keeps them moving forward through challenges. Together, grit and resilience foster a process focus. So now we have an employee who's intrinsically motivated, they're engaged, they're in flow, they're resilient. They can now focus on the very, very simple daily behaviors and steps that keep them committed and lead to success, rather than obsessing and thinking about outcomes and fearing missing targets or performance metrics. All of this, when you put into a melting pot, if a human can engage in work and gain all of these facets, we will shift from resilience to well-being and happiness. And here is where it all connects. Employees who are engaged in flow and resilient are more likely to experience that sense of well-being and happiness. Why? Because they're not just working, they're thriving. They feel a sense of progress, purpose, and satisfaction. That's hard to manufacture through external incentives, such as bonuses, such as stock options, such as gratification in team meetings for achieving certain outcome metrics, and rewards that are tied to quarterly performance. What actually will happen is when people experience well-being at work, they'll naturally and organically obtain high performance. This is the final piece of the puzzle. Well-being and happiness lead to higher performance. Pushing people with targets does not lead to higher performance. If I coached an elite athlete and told them to work harder so they could earn more money and hit their targets, I would be fired. But this is how the corporate world treats their employees. We need to flip that model on its head. And just like I would do with an athlete, I would try and help them feel good about their engagement in their training and in their competition. Employees need to feel good about their work and themselves and bring their best effort every day, just like an athlete. This isn't about productivity, it's about creativity, collaboration, and sustained success. That's why so many elite athletes these days work in big teams and collaborate with multiple people. We need to start seeing our employees in the same way. Simon Cohen, head of Henco Logistics, built a company on this philosophy. It was called High Performance, Happy People. And his focus was on employee well-being, and it was groundbreaking because it led to incredible success. But here's where I think he got it slightly wrong. His mantra was high performance, happy people. I think it should have been the other way around. I think it should have been happy people, high performance. Instead of focusing on the performance so employees were happy, Simon Cohen needed to flip this on its head. Motivated and engaged employees are the building blocks of happiness. When people are driven by what they do and how they engage in it, not what they can obtain from it, they are immersed in meaningful work and happiness flows naturally. Results will follow. Cohen was very, very close, and he is a brilliant, charismatic leader that has been extremely successful, and I'm sure Harvard will continue to study his business for years to come. But could flipping his mantra on its head have helped him achieve even greater results? High performance, happy people, or happy people, high performance. So, how can you take this theory and apply it in your workplace? Again, fostering intrinsic motivation is the key. Help employees connect their work to a deeper purpose. Encourage autonomy, encourage mastery, encourage purpose. These are key drivers of intrinsic motivation. These are highlighted in self-determination theory, and they're also highlighted in a fantastic book by Daniel Pink called Drive. I would encourage anyone who has any form of managerial or leadership role at work to read this book. We need to shift focus to engagement and flow. Redefine success as progress and effort, not just outcomes. As a leader, create environments where employees can immerse themselves in their work without distractions of that looming target, without excessive pressure to meet expenditure and profit goals, without that number that was missed in quarter 3 still looming in their back of their mind, creating fear to not make mistakes. We need to move away from that. We need to celebrate effort and persistence over results. We need to provide support and resources to help employees navigate challenges and setbacks, and look at the business and the business systems and processes and the business's ability to support an individual when a target is missed, rather than looking at the individual who is being held accountable for that target. Prioritize well-being as a pathway to performance. As leaders, we have to recognize that happiness and well-being aren't perks. They're prerequisites for sustained high performance. This is absolutely a cornerstone of sports psychology, and something that every sports psychologist I've ever met and collaborated with knows and tries to foster in their athletes. So why aren't business leaders trying to foster this in their employees? Offer mental health support, flexible schedules, and opportunities for growth. Support holistic well-being. So, my closing thoughts on the matter: building the foundations in your business to support happiness. Intrinsic motivation is the engine of engagement. Resilience and flow, all of which contribute to well-being, happiness, and performance. As leaders, our job isn't to make people happy. It's to create the conditions for them to be happy. When we focus on motivation and engagement, happiness becomes a natural outcome, not a forced initiative. Simon Cohen's philosophy at Henkel was a powerful step in the right direction. But imagine what could happen if we all tried to flip the script and put employee happiness, employee engagement, and employee well-being at the core of what we do every day, and let the results become a byproduct of that. I'm not asking you to chase happiness as a goal for your employees, just like I'm not asking your employees to chase targets. But we need to start building happiness as a byproduct of meaningful, motivated work. This approach doesn't just benefit employees, it benefits the business. Motivated, engaged teams are more creative, more productive, and more loyal. They're not just showing up, they're bringing their best selves to work every day. Let's use this theory to break the shackles of traditional corporate workspaces where people are motivated, engaged, and fulfilled. When we do that, we build companies and we build lives. We are doing something as business leaders that truly matters for the world. We are not just chasing a target for shareholders. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Be a Better Boss. If you're a leader that's ready to harness the power of intrinsic motivation in your workplace, subscribe to the podcast and share it with like-minded leaders. For more resources, visit ianhighfield.com, where you can find out information on my consulting services and how I can help you help your employees thrive. You can also follow my socials on there and keep an eye out for my upcoming book, The Administrative Athlete, Lessons from the Locker Room to the Boardroom. As a business community, as a leadership community, let's build workplaces where engagement and motivation are the foundation for happiness and performance. Let's transform the world through transforming the workplace. Until next time, I'm Ian Highfield. Be a better boss.
Awesome.